Women and the language of leadership. This is such an important topic, and the time is really right for this message. I mean, obviously we have over 1,300 women signed up for this presentation, and this is the second time we've done it, and we've had these numbers both times. So there is something going on, there's an electricity in the air, and really what I believe is the reason why it's so popular right now is that there's a lot of things in the world to fix right now. Am I right? There's a lot to fix right now. And it's time for women to be confident, to speak up, and also to lead with a strong heart. It's time for us to do that. So today, I am dedicating this presentation, and I dedicated the last one too, to my mom. So this is my mom, Janice Laverne Habe Williams. So my mom, I'm dedicating this to my mom because my mom, she died suddenly on April 26th. And it was a few days before I was supposed to do this presentation for the first time. And the shock of her death that day really made me realize that this presentation and this work is really about her. See, my mom grew up without a mom. Her mother died in a tragic car accident when my mom was only 15. And the family was devastated, and my grandfather, being the stoic Texas rancher that he was, he didn't have it in him to raise his 3 daughters by himself. So my mom picked up the slack. She raised her 2 younger sisters. She made sure they were clothed and made sure they were fed, and she helped them with their homework at the kitchen table at night. And most of all, she taught them to speak up for themselves in what was then a very macho, patriarchal Texas culture. So in other words, she gave them the confidence that they needed to make their mark in a man's world. And when my mom finally got off that ranch, adventure really found her. And she lived with Janis Joplin in Austin, Texas, in this ramshackle house that didn't even have running water. She had an affair with a handsome Emmy-winning composer, and she had an illegitimate child in Mexico City in 1963, and then gave it up for adoption because that's what culture told you to do at the time. So she lived around the world, she married 2 men, she had 2 children, and she spent the last 15 years of her life with a man who was devoted to her and who was also half her age. So my mom, she taught me how to tell stories too. And that's, of course, that's what I do now, is I help others tell stories. My mom's stories were sinuous and detailed, and they really made you lean in for more. So my mom was bold and tenacious and never without a smile, no matter what life threw at her, and it threw a lot at her. And I stand as a strong woman for those around me because my mom taught me how to do that. And she knew that the only way to get through it when the going got tough, she knew that the only way to get through it was to keep going. And I'm proud to bring her message to you today, because what the world needs now is our particular brand of feminine strength. It's time for women to step into leadership. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So today I'm going to share with you what I've learned about the language of leadership. And I'm going to show you that you can use the language of leadership to build a kick-ass career and to grow an incredible business and really make a big impact in the world. So before we get started today though, let's go ahead, let's define the language of leadership. And so Joanne, we're going to do a poll. I am going to need your help doing that. So Joanne's going to pop up a poll, and okay, so there it is. In your opinion, what's the best description for the language of leadership? Go ahead and vote on which one you think is right. So we've got open, straightforward, unapologetic, clear, confident, visionary, direct, honest, blunt. Okay. So almost everyone has voted. Right now, we've got 86, 85% on the second choice, which is clear, confident, and visionary. Okay, great. So we are going to stop the poll. Thanks for voting on that. We're going to stop the poll, and then I'm going to share with you my definition of the language of leadership. So let me just do that. I'm going to start sharing my screen. And there we go. Okay. 1 second. There's always some tech stuff here. Okay, there we go. All right. So thanks for voting in that poll. So the language of leadership, what is the definition? Well, this is how I define the language of leadership. The language of leadership is clear, it's confident, and it expresses vision. And most of you, I think it was about 85%, voted for this. So that's great. We're in agreement about what it means to speak like a leader. So being a leader, speaking as a leader, really, it's being able to say, here's what I see, and then laying out a vision for how we can get from point A to point B, okay? So many men are great at this, right? They don't struggle to paint a picture of where they intend to take us, even if their vision sometimes leads them and us to a dead end. But women struggle with the language of leadership because we have been taught to fit in, not to stand out. So to give you an example, here are some things that I remember my mom telling me, some when I was a kid and some not so long ago. Even though she was a fierce woman herself, she feared for me because of my strength. And she would tell me things like this. She would say, you don't have a boyfriend because you're too intimidating, or you're too direct, or you're too bossy, right? So when we were young, both from our parents and from society and culture, we got mixed messages, right? For little boys, we would hear, oh, you're so confident, or you're proud, or you're really focused. But as little girls, we would hear things like, oh, you're conceited, or you're stuck up, or you're full of yourself, right? But we're not little girls anymore. And the truth is, the world is sorely missing our leadership. Let's take a look at some stats. So while women constitute the majority of the population, they are underrepresented in leadership positions. They represent only 24% of Congress in the United States, 5% of Fortune 500 CEOs, only 6% of all VC boards, and only 18% of executive positions in Hollywood. So why is this? Why is this so? Well, I believe that women are underrepresented in leadership positions because they have not been taught the language of leadership. And what I know is that if you don't learn to speak the language of leadership, you won't live up to your potential in your career, and you won't find success in business. And Warren Buffett agrees with me on this. He says, if you can't communicate, you're giving up your potential. So women need to learn to speak the language of leadership so we can really play a bigger game and make our lives and the world a better place. But there is a trap I want to draw your attention to before we get started today. So many women think that they need to take on an aggressive, masculine quality in order to be seen as a leader. And they really fear getting punished for it. But leadership isn't aggressive. Leadership isn't aggressive. And in fact, the language of leadership does not exhibit purely masculine or feminine qualities. The language of leadership, as we've already determined, is clear, and it's confident, and it expresses a vision. So there are many female and male leaders who speak the language of leadership. Some here on the screen right now, I'm sure you know most of these people. And it's not only the language they use, but it's also the strength of their character that makes us want to follow them. Okay, that's what leadership is. It's not only the language, but it's the strength of our character. It's not masculine, it's not feminine, it's clear, it's confident, and it's visionary. So I'm going to keep repeating it because I want us to remember it's clear, it's confident, and it expresses vision. So today we are going to look at the patterns that are holding us back, and we're going to learn how to speak the language of leadership so we can step into our potential and make the world really what we know it can be. And here's how we're going to do it. We're going to divide this webinar into the 3 components that make up the language of leadership. So first, we're going to talk about clarity. In other words, where to focus attention. Where do leaders focus their attention? Second, we are going to talk about confidence, and we're going to look at some of the mistakes that women make. Finally, we're going to talk about vision and what it means to have a leadership brand.